begins in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, lacrosse world. It's College Lacrosse Live. We're going to have ourselves a good time. I'm sitting with the awesome Dan Arestia here. We're going to have ourselves a great time. Don't mind like all the stuff in the background. I'm trying to get the studio set up, man, so that we have an awesome show for you guys. A lot of people tuned in to the first ever episode, the week 0. I'll just say it, the week 0 episode here of College Lacrosse Live. Now we're on episode 2 here, or episode 1, however you want to do it. Dan, how you doing this morning? Excited to catch up on the games. We had a little bit of slate yesterday as well. Some good games here, some surprising scores. What's happening, brother?
I'm good, man. It's Saturday. It's College Lacrosse Saturday. Weather be damned. There's going to be games played. Some indoors, some outdoors, who knows where and when and all that. But we got games today. We had games yesterday. Like you said, pardon the mess. This is all a disaster behind me, and I apologize for that. But, I'm pumped to have the idea of the Saturday morning show to talk about the action, get everybody who's watching ready to enjoy the games today, let you know what's happening.
Yeah, when we talked about this episode or this show, I guess, because you were one of the first guys, I was like, man, Dan would be awesome to have on the show. The knowledge he brings from the scoring side and just like covering the game. You obviously cover lacrosse through you're part of the media poll as well. So all those things, man. And then you're like, yeah, I think I could do 9 o'clock on Saturday. I was like, shit. Like, but look, I'll get this done. Yeah. I'm excited because it gets us ready for the games that are about to happen, right? Like the games are going to be 2 hours after the show goes live, and we're just ready to rock.
Yeah, you got some, maybe even, I don't know, there might be an 11 a.m. start or 2 in there somewhere, depending on I think on where the games are. But yeah, for the most part, we got games at noon, and then going kind of throughout the day with the weather kind of impacting scheduling. We do kind of have the staggered start for some games that everybody always kind of pounds the table for. So thanks, Mother Nature, for that. And I hate Mother Nature for everything else that's gone on the last 2 weekends.
All right, I'm going to use this as time to share out the episode. If you guys are here live, appreciate you. I see some folks joining us. Again, this is like the second episode ever, so we're looking to continue to get the word out about what we're doing here. So I'm going to do my best to share out this on Instagram that we are live. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to Gate. We're going to listen to Coach Gate talk about this scheduling piece. And people are over kind of talking the schedule, right? We don't really want to be hitting that too much. But I thought it was an interesting piece. Let's listen.
Oh, as a staff, we sit around and talk about it all the time. All the topics that come up. We kind of have a war room and we sit around and talk all day. And you know, we would love to see the start date pushed back a little bit. You know, we're the ones where it doesn't matter because we have a dome and indoors, but league-wide. But we'd also like to see teams have to play midweek games and maybe increase the minimum number of games from 10 to like 13. So we've talked about a lot of different ideas, but, you know, I think lacrosse, you know, used to be, you know, much like at the D3, D2 level, they start later, but they play more games during the week, whereas in D1, teams have gotten used to being like a football team and having a full week to prepare. And I know for me, I'm trying to provide a great experience for the athlete, and I think that's playing more games. So I'm all for playing more games, starting a bit later, and mandating some midweek games. So
see Kark's idea.
All right, what do we think? Anything about Coach Gate there?
Yeah, I think Coach K probably speaks for a lot of people. Shout out to the great Brent Axe, the great Syracuse media guy in the background there. Love you, Brent. But look, Coach K took this position on it of why don't we start later? I know USA Laxmag talked to some coaches too, and it was the same kind of thing. You had a guy like Joe Amplo saying, look, this is the players' game. They need to have a voice in this. When do they want to play? When do they want to start? And then, Coach Tillman at Maryland is saying, we're running around on like hard frozen turfs, swinging titanium shafts. Is this really in the best interests of the players on the field? Just from like a safety point of view there. So to me, I am also in favor of starting a little later. It's easy to say, yeah, just do some midweek games, but it's not always equitable from a program standpoint. What happens when Utah's midweek game is at Jacksonville, and then they play Marquette on Friday?
Yeah.
And they go, like, you know what I mean?
Especially
like
those, yeah.
For programs that are out west or not our typical in the Northeast or Eastern Seaboard programs, sometimes it's a little harder to just be like, yeah, just play a midweek game. Like, yeah, Marquette, go to Georgetown and then go to Denver in the same week.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I always find it funny too, because like when we start having the conversation, everyone's like, every coach that I see is like, yeah, we don't want these. And then I'm like, who's the guy? Who's the guy that's pushing for this? Who's the miser behind the scenes that's making this happen? But anyways, the scheduling stuff is kind of, I don't want to say old news at this point, but we got things to touch on. We had a slate of Friday games that we want to pull up and touch on here. Appreciate Inside Lacrosse for getting this one done. But we did have the Friday, February 6th here. We got scores. Obviously, the number one score they have up here is that 11-1. I mean, it's hard to score just one goal here in a game, but we see it. Drexel taking down Delaware 11-1. I guess biggest storyline there, did it take any of the streakiness off of or the shine off of the Utah beatdown of Delaware? But anyways, we got a Friday slate of games. What do you think, Dan?
I mean, to me, I was high on Drexel coming into the season, and I was kind of low on Delaware coming into the season. So I was thinking coming into the weekend, Drexel, this is a very winnable game for them. I did not see this scope of result. I did not see Delaware doesn't score a goal until the fourth quarter. And Drexel as a squad, look, they're talented. And they're one of those teams where I look at them and they've got it where it counts. They have a couple of sophomores who had hat tricks in this game, guys who got some time as a freshman and now have bigger roles. I think Drexel's always been a very well-coached team. I think you could make a case that Drexel's best player, to me, it might be Jack Joyner, and Jack didn't score a goal in this game. Drexel put an 11-1 beatdown on Delaware without getting a goal from Joyner. To me, was like, this team is legit in that conference. I think, for Delaware, it's two tough losses without big goal totals, and it doesn't take the shine off Utah for me. I still think Utah's a really good team, and Utah did come in. They landed that plane to play Delaware at 1:20 in the morning and then took the field to play a game literally hours later, not even a day later. So, Utah didn't have the easiest circumstances and still put it on Delaware, but I think Utah's still really good. But for the Hens, it's like it's early and teams might be finding their identity a little bit, but that's kind of like an early season, all right, let's reset here a little.
It's always tough when you go into a season, all the momentum, all of the hope for a good season, and then literally a weekend, right? Within 7 days, you're sitting at 0-2. You're like, good God, that takes a lot of wind out of the sails sometimes. All right, any other piece here on the Friday slate of games? I was able to catch the Duke score. I don't even know if the Duke score is on this, but Duke Utah here. No, it's not on this graphic. It looks like it might be on the second piece, but. We'll touch on Duke Utah, but anything on this graphic specifically that you want to hit from Friday?
There are, I think, a couple of guys who deserve to get a little bit of shout out, a little shine here. Number one is, I don't know how many of people watched it. I don't know if anybody remembers the sicko game of the week, but man, if you're a sicko and you watched Queens and Lemoyne, you got to see some really good goaltending play from Boston Baudrin at Queens. Made 77% in net. Usually that's Nikki West's job, and Nikki wasn't out there in favor of Baudrin. So Queen's goalie situation is really, really good. And Lemoyne's is really good too. Lucas Winger got honorable mention All-American in USA Laxmag. So that was a good goalie battle that just ended up being kind of wildly skewed. And then you got to call out Ty Caffarelli at Monmouth, man. You put up 7 goals in a weekend. You kind of turn some heads. I keep track every year of what I call King Bucket in the NCAA, which is the player with the most goals at any given time who does not yet have an assist or has like an outsizedly small number of assists. I think last year the title went to like Alex Marinier at Ohio State, who I think finished the year with like 45 goals and 2 assists. Dom Petro is usually a guy that you watch for that. And then like Mark Dutton had a ton, or Mark Waters, I should say, had a ton. Ben Dutton had a ton. But like Ty Caffarelli is going to be in the mix for that King Bucket title of just score a ton of goals and do not register an assist.
Speaking of a ton of goals, Boston scored 23 on Siena. That was a surprising score. Siena winning their conference last year, and 23-7. That's tough, but I mean that makes the Syracuse win, in my opinion, a little bit better, even more so than it already was. I mean, Boston coming out of the gates, 23 goals. It's crazy. So, I got a chance to watch the end of the LIU Mount St. Mary's game. That was an interesting one. Mount St. Mary's was kind of down in the middle of that game, came back through some transition play, some face-off stuff at the end of that game, and then LIU pulled them away there in like the last minute. So I was able to catch that one. Any other ones that you caught specifically before we move to this Utah Duke game? Also, Fairfield Lehigh going to double OT.
Fairfield Lehigh double OT in a snowstorm. They tried to get that game in. They moved it from Saturday to Friday night because this snowstorm was supposed to hit and make it impossible to play. And then the snowstorm just got there early and they played it anyway. Shout out to that. Like, look, man, they figured it out. They've swapped to an orange ball and they made the game work. Fairfield was up 12-6 in the fourth quarter of that game, and Lehigh ran off 6 straight. And ultimately, they tied at 12. Lehigh goes up 13-12, and then Fairfield beats a 10-man and scores a goal from right outside their own substitution box on an empty net. It was just a weird game. And then Devin Lamprin wins it in OT. You get the viral moment of everybody doing the snowy slip and slide. But for Fairfield, I think a couple of things I would call out. Number one, they got destroyed on man down, and they committed a lot of penalties, and that's a bad combo. I think Lehigh went 4 for 6 or 5 for 6 on the extra man, and their last 2 penalties that Fairfield committed were penalties they committed in their offensive end of the field, like the classic slash a clearing player and he runs those. It is the worst foul. Getting a foul 80 yards from your own goal is like the dumbest thing you can do. So Fairfield, look, you had that game in control, and you look like you might let it slip away a little bit, but I think Fairfield can feel good about coming out of there with a win. That was, they played that game last year to start the season too, and Fairfield won it. So, kind of a weird game. Oh, here's the game winner. Watch Lamprin on the crease, dunk, and right to the corner for the sliding effort.
Oh, I love it, dude.
What a move.
There's the soccer slide right there. I love to see that, man. That's awesome.
I know.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, a good win for Fairfield for sure, for the Stags to start the season that way. But a lot to clean up, I think. For Lehigh, you can feel good about the fact that you hung in that game and you had multiple chances to win that game in OT. Hirsch made some saves. Hirsch was pretty hot early. And they were in that game with a chance to win it, even though they were trailing big late. So Lehigh, is not a team I think you can count out.
As much as I hate the snow, right? Like we both. I mean, you had the epic rant on the Sticks In podcast. That was fucking awesome, man. I love that rant, and I've done the same. But some of these graphics that you get from the games, I mean, you can't tell me that this doesn't look awesome. You get some nice photos, I will say, from having the games in the snow. I'm trying to maximize this. Let me see. Yeah. Some nice little graphics there right in the snow.
Fairfield had one of those last year. They beat Sacred Heart in OT at home, and everybody went and jumped on a snowbank. So sometimes you get some fun, some fun coverage out of it.
All right. Appreciate you guys showing up for College Lacrosse Live. This is like the first episode. We did a soft opening on Wednesday with Zach Capozzi from Life's Reference. Guys, if you have any topics you want to touch on, any comments, drop them in the comment box. We'll definitely get to them. Appreciate you guys showing up again. We're excited to get this show off the ground. We know how hard I know how hard it is to get a live show off the ground. Dan, have you ever done a live show?
No, never.
Yeah. Well, it's freaking hard. I'll tell you that. All right, Utah. I have this graphic, man. I want to do this little graphic. This is the game of the week for Friday. Okay. Yeah, I created that all by myself with the help of ChatGPT, of course. But yeah, man, that Utah Duke game was probably the biggest slated game right after Obviously, that Drexel game. Sorry, not Drexel, but the Utah-Delaware game. I'm getting that confused with their game, yesterday. But the Utah-Delaware game obviously got a lot of people excited about, Utah's prospects. They go up against Duke, their line of like linebacker midfielders and just what they do, right? They just have a really strong ACC recruiting pipeline there. And the score was, let me make sure I get this right. The score ended up being 14-7. It was close. Like, this was the game that I did catch here yesterday. This was like the only game I was able to watch other than the end of that LIU Mount St. Mary's. And it was close, a quarter and a half, I would say. And then it just started to get out of whack. Biggest thing for me from that game, Max Sloat and Ben Johnson were shut down in this one. Like, they popped the heck off in their first game. I think Max Sloat had like 5 or 6 goals. He looked unstoppable. They kind of got slowed down in this one. So, just watching it, the LSM, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but the LSM there at Utah did a great job. Gonna have to find other guys that make it happen. In this one, they were able to. I think Utah did an okay job, one-on-one in coverage, but they kind of got caught on the inside slipping a couple times, Dan, from just like some play. And then they turned the ball over way too much for them to win a game like this.
Yeah, I was going to say turnovers, I think, hurt them a little bit. I look at Duke and I see early in the season for sure, a team that's strength is honestly its defense with Charlie Johnson, with Aiden McGuire, with Nick Menendez. Like, they have really quality personnel on the defensive end. Patrick Jameson in net is now a vet. It's an end of the field that they can lean on, especially with McGuire, who you can just drop on anybody, anywhere on the field and be like, he's good. To have a shorty you can do that with is a real luxury. But to me, like, even coming into the season, and I think you got a little better look maybe, like I look at kind of Duke and I'm like, I know Johnston, Sloat, Kyle Colsey in the portal, you kind of expected to be in the mix, but it was like, who's going to fit where? What is this puzzle going to look like? And I think in the first 2 games, you're kind of seeing it, and it really is like a by committee kind of thing. They scored 14. Nobody had more than 2. Ortlieb had 2, Sloat had 2, Johnston had 2, Colsey had 2. And guys can just kind of move around. Delgado got 1. Like, they have the ability to just kind of, share it a little bit. And I don't know what happens for this team yet when it's 13-13 against Carolina with 12 seconds on the clock coming out of a timeout. Like, who gets the rock? I don't think that's obvious to me yet, but
no, it's not.
I think it's a team that still can lean on their defense. To the Utah side, yeah, Nico DePonio, the LSM for Utah, is pretty outstanding. He was the ASUN Defensive Player of the Year last year. Is back, and like, he really impressed against Delaware, and you can kind of see the skills for him all over the field. But yeah, I think turnovers hurt, and really turnovers and kind of poor ball control or sometimes poor shot selection ended with a big quarter for Duke in the second, right? Duke had a 7-goal second quarter.
Yep.
Otherwise, it was a pretty even within a goal or 2 kind of a game.
I mean, you see the highlights here, and a lot of it's in transition, and it was a fun game as a fan. I mean, Utah was running their 10-man ride the entire game, and it just led to like very chaotic play. Obviously, clearing going to be something that gets better as the season goes on, but it was a very chaotic first half, up and down, man. Like, again, like I said, from a fan perspective, this is what you got the whole time. It's just up and down. Utah had a little bit of a problem. I think you bring up a good point. Like, everyone's talking about these big middies, but the defense for Duke is their backbone. That's what they're going to lean on for sure. So yeah. Love to see it. I also love that you point out, hey, who is going to be their guy if Sloat and Johnston are a little bit, caught up, which again, against Utah, they were. They didn't have the success that they had, against in their first game, I believe against St. Bonaventure, if I'm not mistaken.
Bellarmine. They played Bellarmine, and we won.
Yeah, good call. Okay. All right, I got a little bit there. You a Duke fan?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not a fan of anybody, but
okay.
I watch a lot of lacrosse.
Gotcha. All right. We're going to move to the Saturday games here in a second. If we had any other – I'll tell you what. We didn't get a chance to watch this game. Want to give a shout-out to the women. I believe Northwestern beat Boston College pretty handily. Let me make sure I get that score here. I might be able to – let me see. Let me make sure I have this score. So 16 Navy took down number 6 Virginia. This is coming from Inside Lacrosse, by the way. 20-12, Dan. Northwestern over Boston College there on the women's side. So I want to give them a shout out here as we start women's play here yesterday. So yeah, anything on that?
I haven't seen too much of that. I know they put up a 7 spot in the first quarter, and it looked like they were just like shot out of a cannon, ready to start the season. So, the crew at the top of the list in the women's game, I think it's going to be everybody trying to take their shot at Carolina. But I think the early statement of we're here for it, Carolina, let's line it up and play. Northwestern kind of put that out there of like, we're ready for all comers.
Okay. All right. Here's what we got. The guys from College Lacrosse Game Day have a nice little pick-em app that we're going to look at to kind of look at the first slate of games. First of all, some of my calls yesterday were all right. I'll say I called the Providence game, Duke, but Utah covered. Don't look at Lehigh Fairfield one there. But we do have a couple pick-ems here. Syracuse, St. Joe's, Loyola, Maryland, Michigan, Marquette, Army, Rutgers, Villanova, Penn State. I don't know if these aren't all the games. So we'll just touch on these specifically as they kind of have some pick-ems. Anything stand out to you from these games on the pick-em side, man?
If that's you right there picking Loyola, I am with you. I think it's kind of like a hot take. Look, Maryland's the number 1 team in the country. We all know that. Like they're stacked. They're deep at basically every position. Loyola is coming off what I mean. I'm not here to disparage them, but I think last year might have been their worst year in program history. I think they went 3-11. So not a great season a year ago. But look, I will say this about the Hounds. Go to 2024. They open the year against Georgetown. They're a 4-goal dog. They win 18-10. Go to 2023. They open the year against Maryland. They're an 8.5-goal dog. They win 12-7.
So you're picking Loyola to win, not cover?
Oh, no, I'm picking Loyola to cover. Make no mistake. I don't think they are winning this game. But, Maryland, last year, they needed OT to beat Loyola as a 7.5-goal favorite. They needed OT to beat Richmond in 2024. And as we just said, they lost to Loyola in the opener as an 8.5-goal favorite in 2023. Like, these games, especially one where it's moved indoors, the fan situation's going to be, it's like standing room only fans and a light crowd. Yeah. I think, like, I look at Loyola and I say, they went 500 in 2023 and 2024. Okay, not great. They definitely were way down last year. But I see Matt Minikis as a pro-level attackman, right? I see a 50-point scorer who's been a starter since his freshman year. They return a quality close defender in Jake Wilson. They're solid in the defensive midfield, right? That's kind of important. And their second leading scorer a year ago was a freshman, right? It was a team that was like, they were in there in some games. They lost some 1 goals that were brutal. I think there's an opportunity for them to be a better team this year. I do not think they will beat Maryland, but I do not I won't be convinced that they're really 7.5 goals worst. Sometimes Maryland and these games, like, to start the year, they're figuring out who they are a little bit because the identity can change with Tillman from year to year, and you kind of learn who you have and what you're going to be good at and what you're going to be doing in games. So yeah, I like Loyola to cover the 7.5 there.
Yeah, I think I talked about this on our podcast a couple weeks ago, but the worst thing that could possibly happen this season is Maryland just runs roughshod over the competition, right? It's like, it's a wide open, field, all that stuff, and then Maryland is just stacked at every position and plays the "we are the best" mantra, and they just go on to win a natty. Like, as much as I love the guys over there, Jesse Bernhardt and all those guys, I would love to see like some. Not a full romp here. They have the guys like they had the other Bernhardt. Why am I
Jared
Bernhardt? Wow, I'm gonna lose a lot of rep for getting his name. But that year, I mean, they just ran roughshod. That was just, I think that was like basically a perfect season.
They had they had the undefeated season when Wisnauskas won the Tuar. I don't think Bernhardt was still there then. Yeah. But like they had the perfect season, and that was a year where they were Thanos with all the Infinity Stones snapping people out of existence on a weekly basis, and like it was clinical beating of teams every week. I think the season is just too open for that. Okay. That was a year where it was like, in lacrosse, especially in D1 at the top level, it becomes an any given Saturday kind of thing a lot of weeks. Like sometimes teams, it's just not your week and you get beat. That year was the exception, where it was like, I don't know if there's ever a week where you're going to be able to get Maryland. Like outside of Notre Dame, nobody really played them to a super great game. Cornell did in the final that year.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame, hilariously, played them to a close game in the regular season, and that was the year they got left out of the tournament. So, like, it was kind of a strange year, but I don't think we're in for an undefeated season. Again, clip this if you want to. I don't think we're in for an undefeated season from anybody. And I think Maryland, like anybody else at the top of the sport, has All-Americans at a number of spots and is really, really good. But it sometimes they're going to have that week it's not your week.
Okay. Your voice to God's ears. Please let that happen. All right, we're going to move on here. We got Michigan Marquette. I'm picking Michigan to cover here. I'm not familiar with this Marquette team, but this feels like a tune-up game for Michigan in a way. Yeah,
Michigan, I think it's interesting. You wanted to learn a lot about their offense in their opener, where they beat Mercyhurst 24-2. And like, did we really learn a lot? Like, probably not. We learned that Luke Shanahan is going to be a big part of it, right? Freshman scores 7 points, 5 goals in the opener. Even if it is Mercyhurst, that level of involvement, I think, tells you a lot. And you saw some new faces in their midfield, be it, a 4-star recruit like Adam Udell, who was running with the ones and looked solid. So I think this is, again, a game where I'm looking to learn a lot about kind of what's happening on the Michigan offensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball, I feel good about Hunter Taylor. They've got a really good story they can rally around with Mason Whitney. I think the Michigan defensive end of the things I feel okay with, but they graduated so much on offense that you need to kind of find who's going to play what role. And if it's going to be a freshman leading them the whole way, that can be kind of tough. Marquette, I look at a team as like the defensive side of the ball there is going to be well coached. You've got Jake Richard there. You've got Mason Woodward there on the sideline. Like they pump out some pretty solid defensive talent. Peter Detweiler at the short stick D mid spot is a monster of an athlete and is a pro level shorty. So there's some personnel there that will pop. But I think Michigan is the better team, and I also took them to cover in this game. But I think like Marquette is not an afterthought.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, big history here. First Saturday episode we're having here on College Lacrosse Live. Troy Mendenhall, you made the first comment ever. So you're making history here on the channel. He says, gentlemen, what's that pick'em website? So this comes from collegegameday.com, collegelacrossegameday.com. They have a pick'em tab that you can go to. Really awesome stuff. I mean, they have some great content as well that they put out. They've had some, they had CJ Kurse, they had Anish Shroff, they have a pretty solid slate of guests that come through that show, and they host, I believe, a weekly show as well. So yeah, we're using that, collegelacrossegameday.com, and then there's a pick'em tab. Let's get back to this pick'em tab, Dan, and I appreciate that Marquette knowledge there. You're dropping some serious stuff behind the scenes. You're talking about a deep midi on Marquette, but that's the goods here. All right, we've got. Oh, I like this. This could be. Wait. Here we go. Hold on, folks. I just have to keep using that.
I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Keep shoehorning that in.
It'll stick. Army Rutgers here. I'm picking Army, and I'm picking Army to cover minus 2.5 because I love my boy Sean Byrne. What do we got here, sir? What's happening?
You mentioned Sean Byrne, and yeah, I think you have potential goalie battle loading here with Carden Stoller and Sean Byrne. Stoller was excellent in net to me, particularly in the early going against Jacksonville. And I don't want people to be deceived by the score of the Rutgers game last week, where Rutgers beat Jacksonville in Naples, Florida, and they did it in overtime, right? It was an 11-10 overtime game. And it's probably easy to look at that scoreline and be like, whoa, maybe Rutgers isn't that great. No, it's the reverse. Jacksonville is better than you think. I look at this game, and when I start at the Army side, obviously you look at them, they beat UMass 14-8 a week ago. Hill Plunkett was torching people. He kind of moved to that quarterback spot at the attack for them, playing a lot from behind the goal, but really attacking from anywhere. I think when you're trying to scout, all right, how do we scheme to stop Army? With that as the film you have, you probably start there with Hill Plunkett, but I think matching up with Army can be tricky just because I feel like it could just as easily have been the other Plunkett. Like
Exactly.
it could have easily just been Evan Plunkett, who had 5 and 2 a week ago, and Hill was more kind of the off the ball weapon. So, they still have Braden Fountain, excellent shooter. I thought Tyler Clark looked really good in the midfield in the early going. You see, from the face-off spot there, the big question was, what are they going to do without Will Coletti? Robert Simone was very, very good in their game against UMass. So there's a lot of spots where you have to kind of account for them. And Army is not yet a team to me where you can say, Hill Plunkett's the top guy, start with him, take him away, and then we'll figure it out. You do still have to think about, defending kind of the team unit. I also think Army kind of needs this is statement game territory for John Sullivan, for close defenseman John Sullivan, right? So he's the AJ Pilot successor. He's the Army key eraser, number one defender down low is kind of like a big time job, whether it was Pilot before or Johnny Surdick before him. Mm-hmm. Like that, if you're the number one defender at Army, like you are pretty damn good, and they are trusting you on an island every week. So last week, the matchup was not going to be what it is this week. This week, it's Colin Cardillo, who was, scored 4 goals last week, but man, it was right-handed. It was left-handed, going up the right hash, coming downhill lefty. Like, he was everywhere. And if Army wants to kind of lean on Sullivan here on an island with Cardillo, it means it's not like, all right, just force him left and we'll play behind you, or just force him right, we'll play behind you and we'll figure it out. Like, on an island with Cardillo is not an easy thing to do. So if Sullivan is able to dominate that matchup or seriously limit what they get from Cardillo, I think that's kind of a key to Army's success today.
Do they have a second? Does Rutgers have a legitimate second that could contend with Army's defense?
I think you just need to try and find other ways to make slides happen, basically. There's other good Dodgers out there. I've always been kind of a JJ Aiello fan. I know he's not like a big name, but just watching him play sometimes, I think he's a guy who can, he's great at those like kind of low wing or mid wing dodges, and just whether it's getting underneath or over the top of his man, just getting to a place that's dangerous and demanding that the defense support his matchup. So there's guys out there for Rutgers who can do it. But in my mind, that's kind of key to the game is the Cardillo matchup, the game within the game there is kind of what I'm looking to see. Gotcha.
All right, back to the pick'em here. So Army, again, favored minus 2.5. So we're predicting a close game here. Do you think Army covers this?
On the Sticks In podcast, I did pick Army to cover. I think basically for the scenario I just laid out, if this is what would need to happen, I would saying I think that can happen. I think they can limit Cardillo, and I think their offense is diverse enough that they'll be able to create and pressure the Rutgers defense.
I will say I'm in agreement with you on Army's team. I mean, Evan Plunkett is the guy that everybody thought would be
he was
the guy.
He was our first team All-American in the preseason, first team All-American midfielder.
I'm going to make a personal anecdote. I'm not calling Hill Plunkett Cam Newton, okay? But I went to school at Auburn when Cam Newton was there, and nobody knew who the heck the guy was the first week, couple weeks preseason, and then the first week he comes in and is Cam Newton. And again, personal anecdote there, nobody knew who Hill Plunkett was, at least if you maybe the people that were following Army Lax, but everyone was expecting Evan, and you got Hill. So also I'll say, just from a coach's perspective, Army is very direct with their dodges. Like, they are one of the most direct. They waste no time attacking you. They're not fancy at all. They're just getting downhill trying to get by you, and they're the most direct dodgers that I've seen out there. So some good stuff.
Yeah, it's very like on West Point brand. Like, it's very fundamental. It's very like straightforward. We're going to go to this spot on the field. We're going to, whether it's 2-man game or whatever. And oh my goodness.
Jesus.
Down he goes. Down goes Frazier. Oh, I can't feel for that. You're on video. I can't. It is a live show. If you were doubting whether or not this is live, trust me, we didn't pre-tape that.
I'm trying to get my phone charged. Good Lord.
No, I was going to say that Army offense, man, it's fundamental, it's clean, it's executed well. And then, the Cam Newton comp, you heard it here first, everybody. Q thinks Hill Plunkett's winning the Tewaaraton.
There you go. It's happening. That was all planned, by the way. All of that was a skit just to get people into the show. All right, let me see if am I good here? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
All right, the mic was not fit. The mic was not messed with. The the headphones were. All right, Villanova, Penn State. You got anything on this? I mean, this +5 here for.
I would
Villanova?
say Villanova, Penn State is an interesting one. Nova can kind of be that frisky team early. Their early slate always includes Penn State. It used to include Yale pretty consistently, so they always had some good tough opponents early. I look at Villanova. I saw them scrimmage against Fairfield, which, say take what you will out of that, I guess. But I don't see a great amount of depth on the Villanova offense. I think Meichner is great. And but all right, you're going to come at us with Meichner. Penn State says, all right, here's Alex Ross. What do you got next? I don't see Villanova having a great answer to what do you got next. And I also don't know if they're ready to handle Hunter Aquino on the Dodge as an attackman, man. He was running through that Colgate defense like he was the juggernaut. Like there was just no stopping him. The move of him to attack, I think tells you a lot, number one, about how highly he's regarded by the Penn State staff. With the school of thinking of your best players need to be on the field 100% of the time. Let's make sure Hunter Aquino's on the field 100% of the time. But him as a Dodger, with the physicality he has and the speed that he has, is tough for anyone to match up with. And I look at, Villanova's best defender to me is Luke Melchioni at the LSM spot. And I know that if they're going to have a chance to kind of stay in this game, they can manufacture some kind of interesting situations with Melchioni. I saw them do it against Fairfield. They've done it in the past where, off of a ground ball or off of a clear or situations like that, Melchioni stays on to be part of the offense and then doesn't sub, but does you'll hear them yell, Melk, hang him. And he'll just go stand on the far side, kind of between the top of the box and the midfield line. And if you sub to the midfield line, he goes back in and he can score. He's an offensive threat. And if you leave him and you go back in to try and play 6 guys on defense, he'll go sub and he'll get his guys stuck out there. And it forces a 5v5 way of playing.
Yeah. And
teams could be uncomfortable doing that, particularly as we sit here on February 7th. There hasn't been a lot of time in practice to go through what do we do if we're playing 5v5. So if Villanova can kind of maybe manufacture some situations like that, all right, let's play 5v5, see if they're ready to slide, see if they're ready to support matchups and play team defense with only 5 guys out there and talk through it, then you give them a shot. And then the other spot I would say for Penn State is you need to see what you have in net. And I know they started a goalie last week. They started Hawkins, and then he gave up 5 in a row, and they went to Schreiner instead. I don't consider Penn State. I'm not ready to say they have a goalie problem. Look, if you give a freshman his first career college start in Holuba Hall, a venue that is notoriously brutally hard for goalies, and you say, make some saves on a white backdrop with fluorescent lights in your face, like the kid was maybe not necessarily set up for success there. Not that it's anybody's fault. I wouldn't blame anyone for it, but I'm not ready to say that they have a goalie problem yet. But
a lot of people were.
I don't think given the context of how it all went, you can definitively be like the kid's not ready. Let him play outdoors once for Penn State first, and then maybe make a decision. But I think you want to see at least something better than what we saw. Even if it's him just going 60 minutes, you know what I mean? Even if it's not something where he has a tough spell and you got to swap goalies or something like that, but some consistent play. I think it's critical for him to make that early save. I think you talk to a lot of goalies. They talk about feeling it early, having it in their stick early. The first save, to have the ball in your stick and be settled is big for a lot of goalies mentally. So I think if you can get kind of that first save, that first couple of saves, and just settle in and be comfortable. And now having played in the venue once, because they are in Holuba again, having played in the venue once is going to help.
Yeah. I like the point you made with the 5v5 and just creating a little bit of chaos there through different setups. I know we have a lot of coaches that watch this channel and are following. I talked with Zach Thomas from CNU right up the road. Actually, we had a conversation, and he was talking about having a menu. So if you're interested in that type of play, but you don't really know how to set it up, the way that the CNU runs is they have a menu of things to go through, and they'll obviously, as the ball's moving down, they'll have the pick down will have a call, the pick up will have a call, the hang 'em 5v5 go in the corner will have a call, and you just kind of cycle through that and see if you can make something work. So that's just the way they run it with their Fogo, or any guy that they're kind of having run on their offense. But I love it, man. Like our game is like, I love creating chaos from those situations. I know it can get a little bit with the substitution stuff. I mean, that's part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are going to say, well, that's not really like, they want to see more kind of 6-on-6 and more traditional offense. But I do like the chaos that the 10-man is causing early in the season and some of the stuff you're mentioning.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, the coaches are in the business of finding a place where they can create an advantage for their team. And if that's where you do it, that's where you do it. And and shout out to CNU, Christopher Newport, playing outdoors against Hampton-Sydney today as scheduled in Virginia. Unrelated story, Georgetown and Hopkins got postponed.
So you're saying D3, that's D3 ball.
I'm saying that's hashtag D3 grit.
Yeah, D3
I'm saying RIT and Cornell would play outdoors today if you let them.
I love it, man. So yeah, that was probably hold on. No, I'm not going to do the game of the week for you, but that could have been the game of the week that got postponed. Hopkins versus Georgetown. But let's go into here. Let me make sure I pull this up. I'll get better at this as we go on, I promise, folks. Sure. But we do have Air Force Denver and Colgate, Virginia as the last pick'em games here over on College Lacrosse Game Day. Air Force Denver, I picked Denver, but Air Force is covering. Shout out to a kid who I actually coached against. He's from Richmond Collegiate, right down the road. He's getting some freshman minutes. Ben Height for Air Force. Just want to give him a shout out, getting some minutes as a freshman. But thoughts on Air Force Denver, and then we'll move to the Sunday game, here with Colgate, Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of freshmen at Air Force, their highest scoring player in the Lafayette game was a freshman. Christian Swiger was I think had 5 points. So with Air Force, it's another one of those places where it is like, look, you were sort of top heavy in the way that Josh Yago was a world beater for them a year ago, and he's playing for Notre Dame now. Yep. I think he was pushing over 40 assists for them last year. Nobody else on the team had more than 13. So who's our distributor? What's it going to look like? They have goal scorers, right? Kalen Driggs is there. He scored 60 a year ago. Like, he is one of those king bucket kind of guys. He's a clear top of the scout guy to me against Denver. But, a balance in the offense, I think, is going to be important for them. I like the way Air Force kind of looked on defense against Lafayette. I think Cole Cunningham is a great player. He's a spectacular LSM, really good specialist who maybe deserves some more accolades on the national stage. I think he was the ASUN specialist of the year a year ago, but had 4 caused turnovers in week 1 against Lafayette. So Air Force is a bit battle tested, right? We said that, they beat Lafayette, but that was not an easy win. They had to kind of hold off a late charge from the Leopards in that one. They kind of had to battle a little bit. Denver's got a game in, but look, it's a 20-1 win over Cleveland State. I put it in the same bucket as I put Michigan Mercyhurst, where it's like, did you really learn a lot about that team in that game? I don't know. For Denver, I think they have a pair of pros, which helps them. Cody Malowski is a 2-league pro. The Minnie Mouse is just a spectacular player. And then Grayson Manning, the hero of the U20 games for Team Canada, man, he is a potentially game-stealing goalie. You could make an argument he stole the gold medal game. Like, he was making every save in the book. So Denver's going to be in every game they play if those two guys run hot. If Malowski and Manning run hot, they can play with a lot of teams, really a lot of teams. If those guys run cold, you still want to see a little more maybe on the depth front from Denver. You want to see what the supporting cast looks like. And this is a better test. I think you will learn a lot more about Denver in this game than you would have, or than you did, I should say, in the Cleveland State game. I am with you. I took Air Force, I think I did. I got to go back and look at my picks. I think I took Air Force to cover. I think Denver is the team that wins the game, but I think this is sneaky one of those games that could just be a really, really fun one out there in Colorado.
Yeah, great breakdown there, man. I'm interested in this pick here by the lacrosse over there, the Lacrosse Network, man. They picked Denver here across the board. They went Penn State across the board, Army across the board. We do have a Colgate, Virginia kind of split from those guys. Kind of the feel here, but we got Colgate, Virginia. This seems a little bit like it's Virginia's first game. Colgate's already played a really top opponent. +5 feels a little bit. I didn't get my pick in apparently, but I would pick Virginia here. But I picked Colgate to cover.
Yeah, I do picks for USA Lax Mag too. We pick 5 games every week, and that's just straight winners. I picked Colgate as a straight winner. I mean, I was the only one who did it, and I think we'll see if they let me keep making picks or not. But number one, scared money don't make money. Number two, like you said, Colgate has played a game, and it wasn't like a tune-up game. They went to Penn State, and they played the Nittany Lions to 14-18. Like, really not that bad. And for a team that lost both Liam and Rory Connor to the transfer portal and playing at Georgetown, they got 14 goals from 9 different guys, right? They found ways to create scoring up and down their lineup, which is kind of, I think, a good sign for them. It's a testament to how well coached they are, that they can kind of make that happen on the offensive end. But there's a couple of things I like about Colgate. Number one, like I said, they played the game. Number two, they 10-man very well. It was a major part of their identity last year that they kind of just came straight at people, aggression. They'll play the track meet. They don't care. Like, what you want to do, whatever. They'll play the game that they want to play. They wanted to run, and they wanted the 10-man. They wanted to be aggressive. In early February, and you've seen it play out in games so far, the 10-man tends to be a bit advantaged in early season just because teams don't have the game speed reps against it yet. And like, practicing against it is one thing, and running your own is one thing, but playing against somebody else's can be difficult. And so, I tend to tilt towards the team that's riding a little more, just at least for the first few weeks of February until there's game reps for everyone. And
you think that's going to give Virginia a hard time then?
I think it could. I think, I would say, I would add a couple more notes on the Virginia side of things. I think John Schroeder might be playing on a bit of a bum ankle. So I don't know, is that insider news or whatever that would give Colgate an edge, but I would say I still have questions. I've had them for the last 3 years. Who's doing what out of UVA's midfield? Like, what is UVA's midfield going to produce? What are they going to do? It's been very attack centric for them, really, for a long time, and it hasn't worked quite as well for them since some fella named Schellenberger graduated. So, like, sure. who's gonna create for them in the midfield? Is it just going to be a converted attackman who plays a midfield spot? Because I have my doubts about that working consistently. There's a lot to like out there. Dunkel being healthy makes a difference. They have 2 Millens now instead of 1. That's probably going to be a good thing, right? Ryan Colsey's game has gotten exponentially better every year he's been at Virginia. And his playing of summer box has really elevated him. So they have guys who can score and all that. And usually they're a team that wants to run and wants to play between the lines and all that. But I just like Colgate having the scars of the Penn State game, having a great 10-man, and being good at the things that can give a team fits in February.
Especially in their first game. Yeah. I think Virginia feels like that team that is going to have to prove it before everybody gets back on their bandwagon. Like, there's a lot of Virginia hate out. No, I don't want to say hate. There's a lot of skepticism around the team based on the result of last season. It was interesting. I was watching the Utah-Duke game, and Kark was giving Colsey a shout-out over Millen, which I thought was interesting. He was saying that Colsey's like their guy, when I thought that was obviously Millen. But I mean, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I got a lot of hate with the Goldstein preseason All-American picks. I was like, I wouldn't have the second attackman coming back. Now you got to get guarded by the first defenseman. It's a totally different game when you have the number 1 covering you. And I was saying I would rather have Millen than Goldstein. And maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, you lost me there.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
I would say with Kark too, there's context clues there that are important. Number 1, he's Roy Colsey's teammate. Number 2, there's a Ridgefield, Connecticut connection where Roy was coaching at Ridgefield. Kark's a Ridgefield and Yorktown guy. They're both Ridgefield, Yorktown guys. There's a lot of love there between those two. I'm not saying that's why he said it. I'm just adding some context clues. But for real, I mean it when I say it. Ryan's game from when he got to UVA to where he is now has been a ridiculous upward trajectory, to the point where he was one of the better scorers in all of the OJLL last year, or I should say, for Coquitlam. Like, he was one of Minto, and he was just a second round pick for Victoria, for the Shamrocks. If you're a summer box guy or not, I don't know if the audience, if any of this is resonating with you, but like Ryan's game is really, really taking off. And I think whatever people had in mind as his ceiling when he got to UVA, he passed it like a year ago. Like, he really, really has elevated, courtesy of playing, like I said, a lot of indoor and really working on, diversifying the way he plays in his game.
All right. I do not have all of the picks in front of me. I'm using, again, the college today. But if you tell me, Dan, because I don't believe we have the Hobart The Hobart
Canisius
piece here. We don't have we do have the Nova Penn State. We don't have the SJU NJIT. They're playing today? I thought NJIT played earlier this week.
NJIT played Hampton earlier this week. They are playing. It became a bit of a meme on social. Yeah. They are playing tomorrow at 5:00. And sorry guys, maybe you'll get home in time for Bad Bunny. I don't know, but the Super Bowl just might not be in the cards for the Johnnies and for NJIT.
That's true. Yeah, that's an interesting time frame.
But I like this. Lucas DeVoe, man, you are cooking up a parlay here. Michigan money line, Hobart money line, Army money line, Denver money line, Nova Penn State over, St. John's NJIT over. I'll give you the parts that I think I would feel confident hitting. Michigan money line, I think hits. I will take the Army money line and Denver money line, I think hit. I will take the Nova Penn State over. I like Canisius this year. Canisius returns a lot of guys, and they are really a pretty good team. They've played some scrimmages with better teams than people would have expected they were, and played them close. Ones-on-ones played close. So I think Canisius is a 6.5 goal dog or something like that this week, but I picked them to cover this week, and I had said on Sticks In, I would not be surprised if Canisius wins outright. Hobart's got the best player on the field. The best individual player in that game is David Peterkin at Hobart. But that one is Hobart money line might be a little bit spicy, and I don't know if I love the over in St. John's NJIT. 24 goals in a game it's going to be indoors. It's in the bubble at Mount Olive High School in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So kind of like a weird venue, but I don't know if I would trust the over in NJIT and St. John's.
Okay, I like that. I think I'm with you on all the accounts. Penn State Nova taking the over seems like a safe bet. I picked Air Force to cover in the Denver game. So maybe I'm against you on that front, but that's about it. All right, Lucas, if you do places again, I don't know. This is our first couple episodes. I don't know the disclaimer around the betting and all that stuff, but just come on back if you do have a good time with that.
If you make this and it hits, find me at Dan Arestia on social and send me a pic of the winning ticket, and I promise you I will blast it out because this is an incredible parlay. Yeah, and look, Nova Penn State. If the game is in Haluba Hall, I am on the over. It doesn't. You could be playing 2 JV high school teams. I am on the over if the game is in that building.
All right. Last bit of games here as we kind of close out the episode. This has been a fun one, man. Syracuse, St. Joe's. I think the Lacrosse Network guys were picking the VMI High Point game. I don't know if I'd pick against High Point in that game, but we'll see. I mean, VMI had a nice season. They lost their coach. Let's see. Man, is anybody having a worse week than the Robert Morris guys that now have to go play? Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a tough early slate for Bobby Moe. I think, I would hitting some of these kind of quickly, I guess. I think, let's see, St. Joe's and Q's. I'm on the Q's train there. St. Joe's, you have a new coach there. Taylor Ray is now at Penn, and they graduated a lot. So just a lot of questions about what that team is going to look like from a basic identity culture standpoint. How is that going to shape up? And it's tough to learn that about yourselves in the Dome. Syracuse just beat BU by 7, and I think the line for that Q's St. Joe's game is 6. I considered BU to be a better team than St. Joe's, so sure. I would take Q's in that game. Elsewhere, VMI High Point, like you said, the VMI coaching change, and then again, man, Luke Rustarucci ain't walking through that door. That's a very different VMI team without him out there. And High Point is really good. I think I have always rated John Crawley very highly as a coach. High Point's got an All-American face-off guy in Luca Accardo. I think that field stays tilted the whole way. And I know I think the TLN guys, I don't think they pick against the spread. They just pick straight winners. So it's a little bit of a different game. But I don't even know what the line is. I'm going to be on High Point. I would be on High Point in that one. And I would also, disclaimer, I do not actually bet. And if you do, bet responsibly. But I don't make bets at all.
Where's the best place to bet here? Where's the give me something? Because I think
it's probably just your app of choice. The intelligent answer is you should always line shop. Use every app out there that offers games to find the best place to get odds that are going to give you the best payout or what you feel good about. When I pull odds to do my podcast and stuff, I always pull them from DraftKings just because was the first time I ever did it. I did it there. So now I always do it. But DraftKings and FanDuel, I think Caesars has them. There's a lot of places that kind of have places to bet. So you should always, if you're seriously thinking about betting, you should always line shop and find the best odds wherever you kind of go. Otherwise, if it's not that important, you just like throwing a little action out there, then just use your app of choice.
All right, here's what we do. Also, Lucas saying, sounds good, boys. So let us know how that goes, man. We'll see you next week. We do.
I will say, use your app of choice until one of them sponsors this show, and then use that app.
There you go. Exactly. Look at that. Dan's a professional, man. We can also create a league. Obviously, there's no money being. I think the ECD Greg. So Greg over at ECD is actually working with these guys to, I think, like offer giveaways of heads and stuff like that. So I'm giving them free promo, but maybe so I can win the damn head. But anyways, we could create a league here.
Sure,
we can create a league here, Dan. Maybe we can get after it here. But yeah, that's for future episodes. I think we'll be here for another minute. Last thing I want to touch on, Dan, is we kind of got through all of the slate of games here for the most part. You see that little ticker down there. We did not have an Inside Lacrosse media poll for this week. What are your thoughts here on kind of the rankings I'll have a better graphic next week, guys. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on kind of the rankings? Obviously, again, it didn't come out publicly, but thoughts?
Yeah, the media poll, this is the preseason one that's scrolling on the bottom there. And then last week, just because of the schedule and all the cancellations and the mess and everything, the IL guys and everybody kind of made the decision we're not going to do a media poll this week. I was joking on Sticks In that I was like, if I was doing a media poll this week, it would be everybody who actually played outdoors tied at 1, and then snow at 2, cold at 3, wind at 4, and then everybody who canceled or moved their game tied at 5. So like, I don't think I didn't have too many places where I was wildly different in my ballot from what this poll is. I did rank Denver. I did not rank Michigan. So like some weird things kind of at the bottom. An interesting thing to get into with the media poll now, and IL, shout out to them for including this, is when they publish the preseason one, and I think the plan is to do it every week, they will also tell you what team got the highest spot they got voted for and the lowest spot they got voted for. So you see Penn State going by here at 7. Their highest spot was somebody put them at 3. Somebody put them at 19. So early in the season, we're all kind of figuring it out a little bit, depending on how big you think the goalie question is, how big you think some of the other questions are for teams. But, as of now, I don't think there's been any results that would meaningfully really shift kind of what's happened so far. Obviously, Loyola and Maryland today has the opportunity to do some nuts stuff. UNC and Jacksonville play and
touch on that. Yeah.
That's going to be a good one where Jacksonville, I think, handled Rutgers okay, but at the end of the day, Cardilla cooked them for 4 goals, and Owen Duffy is a step up from Colin Cardilla. So, how are you going to handle that? I remain high on JU and I picked them to cover, but if that game gets nuts and Jacksonville does that thing where they pick somebody off in February, then this whole thing is going to get messed up. But the only ones I think that might, kind of change things here a little bit are Army Rutgers could impact the rankings a little bit. Duke and Utah had the potential to, but that kind of went the way it did. Mm-hmm. Fairfield kind of getting the win at Lehigh is nice. You got some teams now that are stacking wins like Providence. There's teams that are kind of saying, look at me, we're still playing well early kind of stuff, or have started to say, we're beating teams. You need to start thinking about us for the poll kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, we'll be looking at the first kind of in-season ranking here that'll probably come out Monday or Tuesday. Does it come out Monday?
Monday, yeah. Monday, we all vote on Sunday night. It comes out Monday.
Gotcha. It comes out Monday. So we'll be waiting for that. Shout out to Inside Lacrosse for getting that done. All right, this has been College Lacrosse Live. Dan does an awesome job every week of covering the sport. Dan, you want to plug yourself real quick? You got any places you could send folks?
Yeah, you can find me on social media at Dan Arestia. It's just my name. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I'm trying to share more content there as well. And then I have the sticksinlacrosse.com website where you can do a lot of my written content there. And then podcast of the same name, Sticks in Lacrosse, and that's wherever you get your podcast.
All right, love it, man. Guys, appreciate you tuning in to College Lacrosse Live. We're going to be having a Monday show as well, so we do these on Mondays and Saturdays. Really looking forward to be doing this. Dan, I thought we had a a great first episode here, man. These can only get better from here on out. Appreciate
so much fun. Thank you for everybody who came by and checked us out. Thank you again for having me on to do this. And enjoy the games today, man. They're going to be running like crazy and it's starting in a couple hours here.
Let's go, baby. All right. See you later, folks.
See ya.